I'm only reminded of a quote that one of my college professors used to tell us. His class was always the one immediately after lunch. So he would say, when the stomach is empty, words are plenty. When the stomach is full, words are dull, because all of us will be nodding off. So I hope that will not be the case now, because we're going to discuss a very important subject, one that is going to affect all of us. It's already affecting all of us in ways known and unknown. And we really don't know how it's going to change our lives going forward. And when I say forward, it's not 15 years, 20 years. It's the next 3 to 5 years. A lot of changes are likely to happen, and thanks to artificial intelligence. So I have with me a very distinguished set of panelists, a power-packed panel here. And we will attempt to use some real intelligence, or natural intelligence, if I may, to decipher the impact of AI, artificial intelligence, on our lives. So I will start with Mr. Lakshmi Narayanan. Can you just take us across what is happening in the field of AI technology, the developments worldwide, and how is it going to impact society, business, even politics going forward?
Thank you, Raghuveer, and good afternoon, everyone. The introduction, I was talking with Debjani about the introductions for a topic which is very current and future-oriented. We've got 3 panelists who are former something. So I don't even know if we are the relevant people to be talking about this topic. One of the things that when I was in Cognizant, and I just about retired, I met Clayton Christensen. And when I introduced myself to him saying that I'm the ex-CEO of Cognizant, he said, ex-CEO, forget, that's old story. What are you doing now? So he's the person who's innovative. He talks about innovation all the time. So that is one of the best lessons that I learned from him. But coming to the topic of today, about AI, about robots, robotics, humanoids, that's an area that's very exciting for technologists like me, who constantly keep following what's happening there, not necessarily thinking about how it is applied. I'd like to present a picture, a future-oriented picture, like the way, the McKinsey people would do, the 3 horizons. Horizon 1, which is current, Horizon 2, which is immediately next, Horizon 3, which is into the future, not far into the future, because the way technology gets adopted, it's very, very rapid. If we start from Horizon 3, perspective from there is the stories of LLMs is already done. It's there. Yeah, you'll get a few more frontier models, you'll get a few million more application models, but that's there. What is the next one? That comes to Horizon 2, which is, this is Horizon 1. Horizon 2 is agentic AI. If there are a billion people who are using computers, there is probably a need for tens of billions of agents working for each one of the individuals and the corporates. And how do we create a world that will house those billions of agents, and how do they provide the service? And the next frontier is about what is the infrastructure that's required for billions of agents to work for this agentic world, and add into the mix humanoids, machines that will do the work of other machines as well as human beings. There is also a theory, or not really a theory, a test, like all of us will be familiar with the Turing test, which says, if you interact with a computer and a human being, if you don't, the interaction is indistinguishable. That means we have arrived. Artificial intelligence has arrived. Similarly, there is a physical AI and the physical Turing test. If a physical task has been completed, and if it is You cannot make out whether a human being did that task or whether a humanoid completed the task. That means physical AI has arrived, and that's where we are progressing. I just want to take 2 minutes and talk about the most recent announcement that was made by the all-powerful, almighty Jensen Huang of NVIDIA. He was in Taiwan, Taipei, giving a 2-hour keynote address to that Taiwanese semiconductor industry, which is where he introduced the concept of AI factory and the new chips, the new models that's coming out. You have heard of Grace Blackwell. There is a new Rubin set of GPUs that will be commercialized. But that may not be very, very relevant immediately. But what's going to be relevant is NVIDIA is collaborating with Microsoft on launching laptops that can run AI models almost as efficiently. AI models with perhaps less than 5 billion parameters as efficiently as GPUs. And they showed these laptops and workstations on the servers, and they're going to be available commercially within the next 12 months in large numbers. That's going to be one of the biggest revolutions that the AI hardware industry has brought about. As far as the software is concerned, you hear a lot of stories about the frontier models, about a company like Hugging Face, which has 2-3 million models that anybody, you and I, can download and create an AI application. So that space is extremely dynamic, moving very fast, and driven by technologies who are giving you tools and agents and allowing you to deploy it whichever way we want. But the point is, the application of this AI hasn't taken off in a big manner, whether it's in India or in the Western world. It's not done in a big way. Again, going back to the comments made by Jensen, he says, people are saying people are being laid off because of AI. That's just not true. Just not true. And he has statistics to show why some of the overhiring of the past is the reason why layoffs are happening, and how AI is being used by corporates to say they are taking away jobs. That's not started happening. It will happen, but it is likely to create different types of jobs. So that's the technology space. So if I want to summarize it, I said humanoids who are almost like human beings will come in the next 3 to 4 years. Laptops that can run AI models that you and I can use efficiently will be available within the next 1 month. And knowing about AI being AI smart is the now for us, for the retired people like us, as well as for younger people today.
That's quite mind-boggling, 3 horizons and AI-powered laptops. And Ms. Debjani Ghosh, that is the international context. How are we in India? You're a policymaker, you're associated with Niti Aayog. And how are we in India preparing for this? Are we set? What stage of development are we in this race?
Thank you, Raghu. And first of all, thank you very much for having us. And a huge thanks to the audience who has decided to cut short the sacred lunch break. Really appreciate, because I know how important lunch is for all of us. So really appreciate that. The past world of NASSCOM, I'm going to leave that behind, and I'll talk about what I'm doing now, which also answers Raghu's question. So I'm currently setting up what we call the Frontier Tech Hub, which is a think tank within Government of India, within Niti Aayog, that is looking 5 to 10 years down the line to understand what are the key technology shifts that will be taking place. What do they mean for citizens, for industry, for government itself, and for geopolitical order? And how should India prepare today so that we are not followers in the next shifts, but we can actually move over to setting rules, setting standards. So there's definitely a lot of appreciation and understanding of the importance of technology not just as a tool for economic power and national security, but I think there's now recognition that technology is becoming the axis of power, period. And therefore, how do you move to the side of shaping the rules rather than following the rules? Now, one of the things as part of our work that is very, very interesting and that's coming out is that there are 3 shifts which are happening simultaneously, and these 3 shifts have nearly happened at this level simultaneously, to completely disrupt and reimagine the tech landscape. So what are these shifts? First, speed. Anyone knows how long it took, say, Apple to get to $1 trillion valuation? Any guesses? 40 plus years to get to $1 trillion valuation. How long is it going to take Anthropic to get to $1 trillion?
The next 15 days.
4 years. That's how much innovation cycles are compressing. Talk about companies. Let's take a better target. 500 billion companies getting to $1 trillion. Apple, 6.4 years. Microsoft, Amazon, Nvidia were all in the 2-year range, 2.2, 2.4, something like that. All in around the 2-year range, roughly. Tesla, within a year, 0.9 years. Samsung was also 5 years. In May, last month, 2 companies hit $1 trillion. Micron, SK Hynix, both in memory. How long did it take them? 0.2 years to get from 500 billion to $1 trillion. That's the speed I'm talking about. The speed of innovation, the innovation cycles compressing. We have never experienced anything like this before. The second shift happening in parallel is the power, the abundance that it gives us to use this capability to change stuff. And if we use it right, we are bringing down drug discovery time from an average of 12 years now to less than 2 years. Right? Manufacturing productivity, you look at China, how many cars they are producing per second is just going through the roof. New cures for cancer. One of the biggest breakthroughs last week was figuring out hopefully a cure for pancreatic cancer. I'm sure you've read about that, you've heard about that, right? So our ability to do good with this technology is again unprecedented, and so is our ability to do bad. If for those of you following Project Glasswing, my Anthropic's Mythos report out, 1 month report out, I think the number of vulnerabilities they found in 1 month, I don't think we have seen that many vulnerabilities in a lifetime.
But Ms. Debjani, what is India's position in all this? Are we...
Can I just complete and close that? Yeah. And then the third shift, with great power comes great desire to control that power. And that's the third shift we are seeing, which is the race for control. Who controls the technology gets the highest value out of it. And this is where you're seeing policies come in, US semiconductor choke points, energy choke points, rare mineral choke points. So these are getting hardwired. Now, coming to India's position, where are we? Currently, we are seen as a great market, a very large consumer market for technologies, which is great, but it doesn't allow you to capture as much value. So if you look at the 17.6 trillion prediction of how much value AI will create in the next 5 years, 80% of that is going to 2 countries, US and China. So for India, we should at least aspire to get 10% of that. And I think that's where the shift is happening. So you see a lot of focus on moving towards infrastructure, energy, semiconductor, etc., along with the diffusion story. It's an and story. So I think for India, it's important for us to we can't take something as disruptive as frontier technologies and try to fit it in archaic models and archaic systems. It won't work. So I think the challenge now is for all of us to reimagine the systems that will work for us, or the systems of productivity as China calls it, right? And I think that's going to be the big challenge for us.
Of the three layers in AI, foundational models, agents, and hyperscalers who help all these, where do you think India should focus on this? Because there's a debate that India should not try to reinvent the wheel and go back to foundational models, but they should look at applications, look at diffusion, look at enabling these through hyperscalers. What should be the position of India?
The stack is way more than those three layers. And the stack is completely changing because the technology itself is changing. So we have to keep identifying the opportunities. I think we have to control the energy, and we can if we want to. We have to control the energy because energy is going to become the biggest choke point for AI. In semiconductor itself is changing, and there are going to be opportunities as computing moves from centralized compute to edge compute. And you're going to need energy efficient compute. You're going to need advanced packaging. And I think these can create tremendous opportunities for India because they play to our strength of design, right? So for each of these layers, we have to identify what are those leapfrog opportunities that get created. And it's not just models. Models is one piece of it. And I think in models itself, the story is changing from large language models, which are getting more and more commoditized, to who can build the vertical models, the smaller vertical models to solve specific problems. And that's where, to Lakshmi's point, the agentic play will come in, right? So you really have to understand the stack, every layer, and in every layer identify where your opportunities to leapfrog, not catch up. Because the catch-up game is not going to work. It's not going to give you the ROI.
Okay. This is Santanam. I know you have very strong views on diffusion of AI. It is something that corporates, individuals, businesses have to adopt. Do you think Indian businesses and Indian companies are up there in terms of diffusion? Is there awareness of AI at the board level at all? And are we just talking of LLMs?
Yeah. No, I'll cover this at three levels. One is at the India, particularly the government level. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about the individuals. And the last I'll come to the companies. It's good, bad, and ugly. Okay, in that order. Frankly, I'm not going to get into this debate about humanoids and stack and other thing. I think we have experts there. I think, in my view, compared to many other governments that I see in Europe, and other than US doesn't have a government which is regulating or driving anything, I think Indian government has done a pretty decent job, especially the MIT. I think the secretary who should have come today, I think done a very good job of creating a AI mission at various levels, various stacks and various things. And when I invested some time with the IITs and the IISCs, I think there is a tremendous amount of work that's going on. You have Sarvam AI, you have Bhashini, you have many others which have actually relevant for India. Okay, there's always this debate about foundational models. I think at this point in time, I'm sure that Niti Ayog would be talking a lot about some of the frontier work that we have to do. But a large number of us feel that there is foundational models, as she said, as commoditized. And what is important for us is diffusion. And I think this is something which people like Nandan, Xstep and others are doing. And I think the focusing on diffusion, which is in agriculture and in education and health, these are three things. I see this as a very happening, and I think there are some fantastic examples. You have that Mahavistar at agriculture, which took 9 months, and 3 months that model was replicated in Ethiopia, and in 3 weeks it was done for the Amul ecosystem. I think we are learning that for India, the diffusion pathway is critical. And I think this technology can do two things. There is what is called a median shift. It shifts the median of people. Or there is this extreme right. There are 50 white male Christians running this AI world. That's it. With 10 Chinese. So if you really want the median shift, then we have to really look at the diffusion. I think there is some good work going on, and I have a feeling that we will capture this base of the pyramid work on education, skills, health, and others. I have a bit of a concern about the so-called assumptions on Gen Z and their fluency with AI. I did a limited study. It's a fairly limited study. And I found that contrary to the assumptions that the Gen Z are absolutely AI native, I found actually they are basically shortcut seekers by and large. They are seeking a shortcut for an activity. I think this is a bit of a dangerous trend. Therefore, I think schools and colleges have to have a way in which we use AI as a collaborator, as a cognitive sparring partner, but not as a cognitive substitute. I think there I'm a bit worried. I think we have both the spectrums. We have these people who are basically using it as a vending machine, put in a query and get out a thing and then write a project. I think we need to work on that. But this is still a solvable problem. My big problem is with companies. I think companies in India, and I'm talking about the Nifty 50, I was asked to speak on this subject, and I found that I'm removed TCS, Infosys, Wipro, HCL, and I don't know, the sixth company. Cognizant is not listed in India, therefore they were not in the Nifty. In the Nifty 45, there are 230 independent directors. Less than 10% of them have any understanding or knowledge of technology, be it digital, be it this. That's the state today. That's the state of our boards. The independent directors have very limited understanding and knowledge of where this technology is, how do you drive. If this, and I don't see this deep engagement in the board about how AI can make a transformative difference. So therefore, I'm a bit concerned that the least equipped are the Indian boards. If you have done a very simple analysis of, it's 1 year dated, so maybe it will change this year, but FY25 balance sheet of the top Nifty 50 companies, leave out the tech companies, there is not one company in the managing director's report had AI mentioned. Not one.
That's shocking.
Not one. Okay, so I think we have to wait and see FY26. It will come in this because those reports were made in last June, July, August of last year. We didn't know that Claude 4.6 is going to come. We didn't know that Agentic is going to come. So my concern would be, I'm not talking about, there are few BFSI boards like some auto companies which are doing pretty well, Tata Motors, Mahindra's, Bajaj and many others. A bulk of the companies, and the surprising part of it is the multinational companies which are operating in India are actually surprisingly silent on AI. So I'm more worried. So if I look at it, I think the government is doing a damn good job. And I think the diffusion will happen. I think the individuals, I'm a bit worried. But I'm more worried about the companies which have to seek out growth and innovation rather than just efficiency. So that's where I am at this point in time. So these three layers. So I hope that I've provoked enough of you on this.
I'll come back to you on those with follow-up questions. Devjani Ghosh has to leave in the next 5 minutes, so she has to catch a flight. So I'm going to ask you one last question. Would you want to talk about what Niti Aayog is doing in this area and your work associated with Niti Aayog in developing AI awareness, AI skills, and preparing the Indian workforce for that?
So my work is very different. My work is really frontier tech lab scanning and understanding and preparing the stack analysis for Government of India. So we understand the leapfrog opportunities across sectors like semiconductor, quantum, biotech, etc. But on going back to your question on skills and workforce development, which is a huge opportunity for India, there are two things. First, I think we have to shift the debate and the discourse from the, AI going to take away all jobs to how do we redesign for AI? And I think that's the biggest requirement right now. Because, in the last few weeks, some of the biggest people who have been speaking about how AI is going to, create a white-collar cliff and every job is going to fall through, have basically gone back and said, no, that's not going to happen. Right? So what we are seeing, and I think where you look at the data, as Lakshmi rightly said, a lot of the displacements till now were due to overhiring during the pandemic. So it was correction that was happening. And if you look at what's happening currently, you have to break down jobs into tasks because every job is a bundle of tasks. And you have to look at how many of these tasks can get automated and how many don't. And that decides job risk, high, low, or medium. Right? And when you do that assessment, you realize that the simple jobs, the entry-level jobs, which are one task job, data entry, call center, etc., these are the highest risk jobs. And so jobs won't go away, but with the entry level will definitely get disrupted. And that is important because that's millions of people in India and millions of youngsters in India. So the question is, what do you now do with them? How do you prepare them to move up the jobs value chain? Because when you move up the job value chain, what you find is a model that I think Dan Schipper came out with it. He called it first, but we are using it. It's called the human sandwich model, which is you have the AI in the middle, but you need the humans to frame the questions, to frame the inputs. AI does the work. And then you need humans again at the end to verify the outcome, to ensure that the outcome is safe, responsible, blah, 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 right? So, and honestly, for those of us who are using AI extensively, it's the human sandwich model that is becoming important. And that will be very important when we get into the agentic era. Because you will need to have, the human in the loop in order to ensure your agents don't go crazy. So it's going to be very, very important. So from a job perspective, realistically, what we are seeing is the entry level has to be protected. And we have to really reimagine our reskilling, our skilling initiatives to ensure that people have what I call workflow skills and not just generic certificates that we are training for, which honestly don't have much relevance on the workflow. So how do you integrate skills? How many institutes are teaching our youngsters how to work with agents? And if we are not, why not? Because that's what they'll be doing. Most of them will be doing that in a few years. So why are we not building these skills? So I think it's going to be very important to sort of redesign our skilling, not just how we skill, but what are we skilling them on? How do we do that? And it will be important to redesign the workforce to pretty much manage this human sandwich that I'm talking about, which is AI coexisting with the humans.